You're stressing out about the verbal section of the UCAT? Don't worry, I got you covered, and watch the video, because this video is going to tell you everything you need to know about the verbal section of the UCAT.
Oh no. You just witnessed a painful attempt of creating an engaging intro.
So for those of you who are new to the channel, thank you so much for joining. My name is Kevin and I'm a soon-to-be medical student at Barts in London Medical School. So I previously did a video about the UCAT in general and my advice about it. I would definitely recommend you to check it out. I will link it somewhere here or down below. But this video is dedicated to the verbal reasoning section of the UCAT. I achieved a pretty high score on the verbal reasoning section, so I thought it might be a good idea to share some of my advice with you. So before we start with this video, I would really appreciate it if you could support my channel by subscribing to my channel and hitting that bell button so you get notified whenever I upload new videos, as well as give this video a like if you found it helpful and share it with friends or other people who you think might benefit from it. So the first section in the University Clinical Aptitude Test, also short the UCAT, is the verbal reasoning section. And what this section is all about is that you have to read short passages of text, which are usually between 200 and 300 words, and then you have to answer related questions to that text. So what the verbal reasoning section is testing for is your ability to extract knowledge in a short period of time from text and draw conclusions from that. But there's a difference between speculating and drawing conclusions. So as I said, you have to answer certain questions about the text, and there are generally 4 categories of questions. So the first category are true, false, and can tell questions. The second category are incomplete statements, and what this means we will cover just in a bit. Then the third category are according to the passage or according to the text questions, and the fourth category are except questions. So as you know about the UCAT in general, the UCAT is timed and most people find it really stressful, but this is particularly true for the verbal reasoning section. And what I've heard is that some people find themselves under the most stress and under most pressure in the section, and I include myself into this group because I also felt in the beginning like, how am I supposed to comprehend so much information in such short time? And it was a challenging thing to prepare myself for the verbal reasoning section, but in the end I did really well. So I'm gonna share with you my timing tips as well. So in general you get 21 minutes for the verbal reasoning section, and you have 11 text passages, and you have to answer a total of 44 questions. So that leaves us with around less than 2 minutes per passage. And if you think that you have to answer 4 questions per passage and read the text to answer those questions, that might seem very scary and impossible to do, when in reality it is challenging, but it's definitely doable if you have the right strategy. So what I would tell you about the verbal reasoning section in general is that timing is key here, and you really have to keep in mind that sometimes it's better to make an educated guess, flag the question, and then skip the question. So some people say it's better to first read the text and then answer the questions. Some people say it's better the other way around. So first read the questions and then read or scan the sort of text passage for the necessary information that you're looking for. I would say that I use a combined approach. So sometimes for certain question types, I would use the first text and then questions, and sometimes I would do it vice versa. So first questions, then text. But I will tell you about this specifically when we go into the question types. Also keep in mind that in the verbal reasoning section, it's very tempting to jump to conclusions that are actually not true, just because it's sometimes very tempting to just speculate or to build on previous knowledge that you have maybe about the topic. But in generally, I would advise you to only stick to the information that you are given in the text, and this is really, really key. Don't assume anything and just base your answers on the text and on the information you're given in the text. Let's jump into the question type. So the first question type that I would like to cover is a true, false, and can tell question type. So generally you're given a statement and then you have to decide if that's true, false, or you can tell based on the text. And what is important here is that you really understand what is meant by true, false, and can tell. True really only means true if you have somewhere evidence for that in the text. And false only means false if you find somewhere in the text sort of an opposing statement to the statement that you are given. So only then it is false. Don't speculate that something is false if you're not given any information on that, because then we come to the last category, which is can't tell. And don't be afraid of using or deciding on can tell, although I know it's unsatisfying to choose can't tell, but often it's the case that there is no information, and rather than speculating that something is false because there is no information, or to assuming something because there is maybe something similar to that statement, and then choosing true, that doesn't make sense. Just in general, I would advise you, if there's no information given about something, choose can tell and don't speculate. So for the true, false and can tell question, it might be a good approach to first read the question and scan the question for keywords such as dates, names, places, shifts in something, so for example the change of a law, and then to scan the text for those keywords and then just to read a bit around those keywords, and maybe this will help you to find the right answer in a time efficient manner. But this doesn't always work, and it's also a pretty individual thing how your brain works, so I would advise you to try different approaches. So maybe when you're practicing, the first time you just read the text and then answer the question and see how much time it takes you, and then if you see that it takes you too much time, try first scanning the questions for keywords and then scanning the text for those same keywords and then trying to come up with an answer. So the second type of questions are incomplete statements, and how they are structured is that you're given a statement which is not complete, and then you're given 4 different options which fits best according to the text. So here it might be also a good idea to first check for keywords in the statement and then look for the same keywords in the text, so you can sort of save some time rather than reading the whole passage. Also, another thing here to save time or to be more efficient is if you found the right answer, so you're satisfied with your answer and you think if I read the statement then it does make sense and it's true according to the passage, then don't waste time of checking for all the other possible statements, because most likely you already found the right answer and then it doesn't make sense to waste time on really double checking, because simply there is no time for double checking in the UCAT. So the third type of questions are according to the passage question, and this type of questions really checks on your ability to draw the right conclusions and not just assume anything. So here it's really key to work carefully and choose your answer carefully, and do not be biased by sort of your own brain to jump to conclusions just by speculating or assuming something. Really check if you're drawing the right conclusion based on the information that you're given in the text, not your prior knowledge. So the last I would like to mention are the most likely questions. And those type of questions might be a bit tricky, because all the possible answers that you're given might be somehow true, or there's not really a definite answer in all of those questions, but you're rather asked to choose which one is the author, for example, most likely to agree with. So while the author might agree with another option as well, you should choose the one which the author would be most likely to agree with. So the keyword most likely here is really important. So for those type of questions, I would rather advise you to read the whole passage first and then answer the questions, because I think here it's a bit tricky to scan for keywords. So now that we covered the question types, let's jump into general advice and tips and tricks I have for you for the verbal reasoning section of the UCAT. So my first point is that reading fast or extracting knowledge, also called sometimes skim reading, is not something that you're born with, but rather a skill that you can develop and train. So if you would like to improve on the verbal reasoning section, I would advise you to do some practice on reading faster and skim reading. There are helpful resources out there online which are sort of tools which help you with that. I will link them down below, but you also can just take newspaper articles, read them and try to sum them up in maybe 1 or 2 sentences in a time efficient manner, and then maybe go to your parents and tell them, okay, this article is about that and that, could you read that article and tell me if you agree with my conclusion. So my second point is that the UCAT is sometimes designed to throw you off, and sometimes they will put very difficult passages or difficult questions in the middle of easier ones. So you might start with easier questions and then something really tricky, and after that it would get easier again. But if you waste too much time on those hard questions, you will never get to the part where it gets easier again. So in this situation, it's important to stay calm and realize, okay, this question is particularly difficult and I do not want to waste so much time on that question when I could score marks on easier questions. So if you find yourself in the situation where you say, this passage is really difficult and I think I would use too much time on that right now, just make an educated guess, flag it and skip it. Do not do that with all of the questions, of course, but sometimes it's better to just skip the question and move on and score marks on other questions which are generally easier than wasting time and marks on a question which is really difficult. My third point is that you should keep an open eye for keywords and in general just relevant things which they might ask in questions while you're reading the text. So as I already mentioned, certain keywords like name, places, dates come up over and over again in questions. So while you're reading and you see, okay, there's a name or there's a keyword, just sort of make a mental note of that and be like, okay, second paragraph, this and this name. And if you go then to the questions and see this name again, and you'll be like, okay, I saw it in the second paragraph, so let's go quickly back to the second paragraph and check again what was it about that person. And so my fourth point and my last point is that you should try out different strategies. There's lots of advice out there, and I will talk about other resources and just right after this. And of course, I'm also making this video to give you some advice, and I hope this advice is helpful to you. But in the end, we're all individuals, and different people function in different ways. So our brains do not function all in the same way. That would be boring, right? So try out different strategies. If you hear advice, try out that advice. But if you realize that advice isn't really helping you, then there's no point sticking to it just because somebody said so. So while you're practicing, there's no harm in trying out different strategies and realizing, okay, this is not for me, or okay, this is really helping me, and then sort of adjusting your method and strategy of approaching the verbal reasoning section of the UCAT. And basically that goes for any section. So now that we've covered timing, the different question types, and my general advice and tips for the UCAT verbal reasoning section, I would like to just mention some other resources which helped me when I prepared for the UCAT, especially for the verbal reasoning section. So I will link some other YouTube videos down below which helped me a lot, for example, videos by the Paramedic. I will also link you a few articles which I found online with different strategies and tips and tricks. And I will also link you again the book which I used in my preparation, which is the 1250 UCAT questions. I know that reading from a screen and reading from a book are two different things, so at some point you should switch from book to the screen and try out verbal reasoning questions, practice questions on the screen. But in the beginning I found it really helpful to use this book because they have lots of good text and lots of good questions, and they explain to you why each answer is right or is wrong, or why would that particular answer be better than answer C, for example, in the most likely section. So I will also link that down below. So this is the end of the video. I hope I could help you in any way with the verbal reasoning section when it comes to preparing for the UCAT exam. As I said, the UCAT verbal reasoning section is a very time-pressured section, and a lot of people find it difficult, but just try to practice and I will guarantee you will see some improvement. Also, if you have not yet subscribed to this channel, I would really appreciate if you could do so. Just hit the subscribe button down below and give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful. Also, let me in the comments what you think about the verbal reasoning section of the UCAT. Do you find it challenging, or are you afraid of it? Or do you say, nah, I like reading, so that's good for me. There's another section which I found more difficult. I hope I see you next time, and until then, stay safe and bye.